What happens when the man who owns the company walks in as a trainee and no one knows it's him? Westen Rivers stood outside the return desk of Store 4, pulling his fake employee vest tighter around his chest. His buzz cut was hidden under a shaggy brown wig, and thick-rimmed glasses masked his face. No one at this store had ever met him, not the clerks, not the manager. He'd inherited the 8-store chain of home goods shops from his father 6 years ago, and since then, he'd mostly run the business from the downtown office. Numbers looked fine, but something had been gnawing at him. Customer reviews were dropping fast at a few locations, Store 4 in particular. Vague complaints about rude staff, long return lines, and something about humiliation at the counter. But nothing concrete. He needed to see it himself. So, here he was. Officially, his name was Sean, a new hire starting in returns. He'd told corporate HR he wanted to test out a new training approach. No one outside of corporate knew it was his idea. And no one here had seen his face in person. "Let's go, Sean," said the store manager, a broad-shouldered guy named Todd. "You're shadowing the returns desk today. You just smile and keep quiet. Don't jump in unless I say so."
Westen nodded.
Got it. The return line was already 6 people deep. The woman behind the counter was moving fast, but her speech came out a little slow, a bit slurred. She was in her mid-20s, with kind eyes and a badge that said Tessa T. "Hi, ma'am," she said to the next customer, a woman in a leather jacket. What can I help with?" The woman raised an eyebrow. "You serious right now?" she said loudly. "Do they not teach you to talk before putting you at the counter?" Tessa blinked, clearly stung, but didn't respond. "God," the customer muttered. "Just take the stupid thing." Tessa kept her face calm and processed the return. Her hands moved fast. Her voice was soft, but steady. Westen watched her work through the next 2 customers, each one impatient. She didn't flinch.
She just did the job.
"Why is she on returns?" Westen asked Todd quietly. Todd shrugged. "She talks weird. Slows down the line. But she begged to stay up here. Said she liked it. I gave her a shot."
Westen frowned.
"She seems fast to me," Todd scoffed. "Yeah, well, you're new. She's not a good fit." Before Westen could say more, a guy in a red hoodie stepped up and tossed a blender on the counter. "Didn't work. Want my money." Tessa scanned the receipt. Sorry, sir. This was bought 8 months ago. We only accept returns within 60 days. "Are you kidding me?" the guy snapped. "What the hell are you even saying? Speak English." The words landed like a slap. Tessa's face went pale. She opened her mouth, but nothing came out. Westen felt his chest tighten. He stepped forward, but Todd pulled him back. "Don't," Todd said under his breath. "Let her handle it." The guy leaned in. "You some kind of joke? Got a speech problem or something?" Tessa swallowed hard. "We can't take it back, sir." "Useless," the man spat, grabbing the blender and walking off. Tessa kept her eyes low. Her hands trembled as she scanned the next receipt. Westen had seen enough for one day. At the end of the shift, he caught Tessa by the break room. "You okay?" he asked gently. She gave a weak smile.
"Yeah."
"Happens a lot." "You shouldn't have to deal with that," he said. She shrugged. "I just want to work. Talk slow, but I do the job right." "You do," Westen said. "You really do." She looked at him, surprised. "Thanks. Most people don't say that." Todd walked in. "Hey, Sean, you're done for the day. Don't get too comfy back here." Westen gave him a nod, hiding the fire in his chest. He left the store in silence, heart pounding harder than he expected. This wasn't just about one rude customer. This was a culture problem, and it started at the top. His top. Westen arrived at the store a few minutes before opening. The parking lot was empty except for a few staff cars and a delivery truck idling by the receiving bay. His disguise was the same shaggy wig, glasses, and a name tag that read Sean R. But this time, he wasn't drifting in blind. He'd spent the night reviewing store shift schedules and checking security footage from the past 2 weeks. There was a pattern. Tessa opened the return desk nearly every morning and worked through without complaint. Todd, the manager, rarely approached the counter unless a customer escalated. And 3 employees, Corey, Delia, and Marcus, clocked in daily but barely touched the floor. Their productivity reports showed almost nothing, yet their hours were consistent. Something wasn't adding up. Inside, the store lights buzzed on. Tessa was already straightening signage at the counter, her motions neat and focused. She didn't see him approach. "Tessa, right?" Westen asked. She turned, brushing a strand of hair behind her ear.
Yeah.
"Why, you're the new guy." "Sean." He nodded. "Manager said I'd be shadowing you again." She gave a hesitant smile. "All right." IW was Jay, just setting up. As they opened the counter drawers, Westen kept his voice low. "You always open alone?" She nodded. Most mornings. They say I like routines." It wasn't a complaint. If anything, it sounded like she was defending the setup. "Do you get backup when it gets busy?" She hesitated. "Sometimes. But it's usually just me till lunch." He glanced around. The morning delivery crew was unloading cases in the back. Todd strolled past with a coffee in hand, laughing with Corey, who hadn't even put on his vest yet. Tessa flicked on the register. "There's already a return appointment at 9. Omion called yesterday." Westen furrowed his brow. "Return appointment?"
Yeah.
Some C customers get really upset when it's busy. So Todd said we could set time slots for the more difficult ones. Westen had never approved anything like that. At 9 sharp, a man in a gray overcoat entered holding a decorative lamp. His gait was stiff, expression unreadable. Tessa greeted him politely and scanned his receipt. "This W was purchased last week." "See, can I ask what the issue is?" "Shade was cracked when I took it out of the box," he replied. "Looked like someone kicked it in." Tessa opened the box carefully. The damage was clear. She began processing the return. "Just so you know," the man added, "this is the 3rd time I've returned something here this year. You folks really need to check your inventory better." "I'm sorry for the trouble," Tessa said quietly. "I'm not blaming you," he said. "But if I didn't ask for an appointment, I'd be stuck behind someone yelling at you." She nodded slightly and handed him the receipt. He left without another word. Westen turned to her. "Do they really yell often?" She didn't answer directly. Instead, she reached into a drawer and pulled out a laminated card labeled escalation phrases. It had scripted lines for when customers became aggressive. Most were variations of "I understand your frustration" or "let me get a supervisor." Westen scanned the bottom. In small print it read, "Only use if absolutely necessary. Supervisors may not always be available." "Did you make this?" he asked. "And no. Todd gave it to me when I started returns." Westen folded the card slowly and placed it back in the drawer. Later that morning, Delia finally wandered up to the desk. Her phone was still in her hand, thumb mid-scroll. "Todd said you need a break," she said, not looking up. Tessa glanced at Westen. "I can wait if why you want to watch." He shook his head. "Take your break." Tessa disappeared into the back room. Delia leaned against the counter, chewing gum. "You're the new returns guy, or whatever?" "Just helping out," Westen replied. Delia snorted. "Good luck with that. This place is a zoo." "How long you been here?" "Too long. 4 years. I should be running this counter by now, but Todd says I'm too inconsistent." "Whatever that means. I show up, don't I?" Westen watched her tap at her phone again, clearly not interested in doing anything else. A customer approached with a boxed set of cookware. Westen stepped forward, but Delia didn't move. "You got it," she said, gesturing at the counter. He processed the return quickly, then turned back to her. Why don't you want to help? She rolled her eyes. Because I'm not about to get screamed at by someone over a dented frying pan. That's what Tessa's for. She just takes it. Kinda pathetic, honestly. Weston's jaw tightened. She's doing her job. Delia laughed. She's doing your job, too, apparently. Tessa returned moments later. Delia handed her the counter without a word and sauntered off. Weston followed her path, watching her disappear behind the lighting aisle where Marcus was leaning against a shelf texting. He found Todd in the stockroom, fiddling with a clipboard. We need to talk, Weston said. Todd looked up, surprised. What's up? Delia's not working. Marcus is hiding in the aisles. Tessa's doing triple the work and getting treated like a punching bag. Todd let out a low chuckle. You're new.
Give it time.
You'll learn how the rhythm works here.
Westen steppet closer.
The rhythm is broken. Todd set the clipboard down, his tone cooling. You're a trainee. Maybe stay in your lane. She's being harassed by customers. And your staff's making it worse. Todd crossed his arms. Look, Tessa's fragile. I let her stay at the counter because it keeps her calm. The others? They're not great, but they know the drill. Weston's voice dropped. This isn't about keeping her calm. It's about dumping the worst part of the job on someone who won't complain. Todd gave a tight shrug. She never asked to be moved. She shouldn't have to. There was a long silence. I'm going to keep observing, Weston said. But if I see one more person treat her like that, I'll report it directly to corporate. Todd narrowed his eyes. You don't know how things work here, Sean. Weston held his gaze.
No.
But I know how they're not supposed to work. That afternoon, he stayed by the counter. Delia and Marcus didn't return. Corey came by once, asked if anyone had seen his vape, then disappeared again. Tessa stayed on her feet, handling every return with quiet precision. Just before close, an elderly man approached with a broken stepladder. As Tessa offered to help carry it, the man smiled. You're a kind girl, he said. Don't let the world wear you down. She nodded, her eyes tired but grateful. As the man left, Weston gently pulled her aside. You ever think about working in training? Teaching others how to handle this counter. Her eyes widened. Me? You've got more composure than half this store. And I've seen you solve problems no one else even noticed.
I don't know, she said.
And never thought about it. People don't usually ask. Well, someone should. She blinked slowly, unsure what to say. He stepped back. Let's finish the shift. Tomorrow might be different. She smiled faintly and nodded. As they locked up for the night, Weston stood in the dark lot, watching the last of the employees drive off. He pulled out his phone and typed a single message to his executive assistant. Clear my schedule. I'm staying in store the rest of the week. He slid the phone into his pocket. Tomorrow, he wouldn't be Sean anymore. Weston arrived without the disguise.
No wig, no glasses, no trainee vest.
Just a plain gray button-down and the weight of what he'd seen over the last 3 days. The morning buzz of the store hadn't started yet. Fluorescent lights flickered to life overhead. The return desk stood quiet, still smelling faintly of packing tape and floor polish. Tessa was already unlocking the register drawer, her back to the entrance. He waited until she turned. She blinked, confused. You're not Sean, he said gently. My name is Westen Rivers. I own this company. The drawer slid shut with a soft click. Her lips parted, but no words came. I wanted to see how this store was really being run, he said. And I saw enough. She stepped back slightly, her hands fidgeting against the edge of the counter. Did I do something wrong?
No.
You've done more right than anyone else here. She looked down, overwhelmed. Footsteps sounded behind them. Todd entered, a folder tucked under his arm. Where's the new guy? He asked, not looking up. I need someone to help with floor tags. He's gone, Westen said without turning. Todd froze. What? Westen turned to face him. You've been overseeing a toxic environment. I watched your staff hide from work, mock a coworker with a speech condition, and leave your most capable employee to carry the front line alone. You've either ignored it or encouraged it. Todd's eyes narrowed. I didn't know who you were. If I had, but you didn't know who she was. Westen cut in, nodding toward Tessa. And you chose to do nothing. Todd looked at Tessa, then back. She never complained. She shouldn't have had to. A silence stretched.
Westen steppet closer.
You let Corey, Marcus, and Delia burn hours without contributing. You used Tessa as a shield for customer frustration because she wouldn't push back. You didn't train. You didn't intervene. You didn't lead. Todd opened his mouth, then shut it. Hand over your keys, Westen said. Todd didn't move. You're done. Immediately. Todd looked at Tessa again, then tossed the keys onto the counter and left through the side exit without a word. The sound of the door closing echoed across the empty store. Tessa stood frozen. Westen turned to her. Take the morning to breathe. Sit in the office. I'll cover the counter until we get a replacement. Never. You don't have to explain anything, he said. Just rest. For once. She hesitated, then slowly nodded and walked toward the staff hallway. Westen moved behind the counter, rolling up his sleeves. By the time the doors opened, he was already processing the first return. By noon, corporate HR had arrived. 2 regional managers followed shortly after. Neither had been informed about the undercover visit. He sat them down in the employee lounge. Effective immediately, Westen said, this store is under direct oversight. I'll rotate leadership from other branches until we find someone who actually earns the title of manager. One of the regional managers, a woman named Helen, leaned forward. Do you want us to write up the staff? No, Westen said. You're going to fire 3 of them. He handed her a folded paper with names. Corey, Marcus, Delia. They've had time. They used it to make someone else's job harder. Helen nodded without hesitation. Tessa entered the lounge quietly. Her posture was more guarded now, unsure of what room she was walking into. Westen stood. I need to ask you something, he said. Would you be willing to train new hires for the return desk? Not just here. Across all locations. Her eyes widened slightly. Me? You've had more composure under pressure than most managers I've hired, he said. And you've done it without support. I want to change how we train people for customer service. I want the new standard to be what you already do. I don't have a degree or anything. You have experience, he said, and judgment, and restraint. We can teach systems. We can't teach that. She looked at the regional managers, then back at him. I'd be honored, she said quietly. You'll be paid accordingly, Westen added. And you'll help us build out the training program from scratch. The afternoon moved quickly after that. Helen pulled the 3 underperforming staff members into the office one at a time. Westen didn't attend those meetings. He'd seen enough. By late afternoon, new temp staff from a nearby store arrived to help cover shifts. Westen made sure they were briefed thoroughly. At closing, Tessa approached him as he was reviewing the day's numbers. You didn't have to do this, she said. Yes, I did, Westen replied. I let myself drift too far from the ground floor. I forgot that systems don't fix culture. People do. She nodded slowly. I always thought I was just trying to survive this job. I didn't think anyone noticed. I noticed, he said. And from now on, I'll keep noticing. She smiled small, but real. Westen stepped outside as the sun dipped low behind the store's loading dock. He watched as the lights inside dimmed and the last staff member locked up. This wasn't the end of anything. It was the start of something better. Not just for the store, but for every location under his name. He checked his phone once before pocketing it again. Then, he turned toward the parking lot and walked off into the cooling air, already drafting tomorrow's first training memo in his head. 3 weeks had passed since Westen had revealed his identity inside Store 4. The quiet storm that followed had not subsided. It had reshaped everything from the ground up. But progress, he quickly learned, didn't come in the form of sweeping speeches or staff-wide applause. It came in the form of early mornings, long meetings, and slow, persistent changes that stuck. He arrived just after sunrise on a Thursday, not to inspect, but to participate.
No entouraje. No clipboard.
Just a plain navy polo and his own 2 hands. The morning shift was short-staffed again. 2 hires had backed out after training. He wasn't surprised. The industry was still recovering from years of burnout and bad headlines. He stepped through the automated doors, nodding to the security guard clocking in. Inside, the store had the sterile hush of a place not quite awake. One light flickered in aisle 6. A loose tag flapped on a seasonal rug near the entrance. Tessa was already unpacking shipping boxes at the counter. She didn't flinch when she saw him approach. "You're early," she said, not looking up from the box cutter in her hand. "I figured I owed you a shift under real conditions," Westen said, setting his bag behind the counter.
No disguises.
"Just work." She peeled back the cardboard carefully, revealing a set of glass pitchers. "You're not going to be able to hide behind a name tag this time." "I'm not hiding anymore." She handed him a roll of shelf labels. "Then you're on pricing duty." They worked in silence at first. Customers trickled in slowly, mostly retirees and early risers. The returns were minor. A chipped mug, a curtain panel that didn't fit. Nothing like the chaos of weeks prior. At 9, Helen, the regional manager, arrived. She'd been assigned to oversee Store 4 temporarily while they finalized a new manager. She wore a stiff blazer and walked with purpose. "Westen," she said, approaching the counter. "I wanted to update you on the interviews." He set down the pricing gun. "Let's hear it." "We've narrowed it to 2. One's internal from Store 2, great numbers, good leadership scores. The other's external, from a rival chain. Strong background in team development, but no experience in our systems." Before he could answer, they were interrupted by a woman approaching the counter, holding a receipt and a broken picture frame. Tessa stepped forward. "Hi, W, what can I help with?" The woman flinched slightly at the first syllable. "Sorry, I didn't expect, never mind." She placed the frame down. Tessa's hands didn't falter. "I see, can take a look." The woman glanced at Westen, then back at Tessa. I came in a few weeks ago and it was a mess here. Screaming, long line, people cutting. Today feels different." Tessa offered a small nod. "W, we're trying." "You're doing better," the woman said. "Really?" She left with her refund, leaving behind a silence that hung like a held breath. Helen leaned in. "That happen often?" Tessa shrugged. "Sometimes." Westen looked at Helen. "Hire the external candidate. New systems can be taught. Respect for people can't." Helen nodded once and made a note in her tablet. Later that afternoon, Westen sat at the edge of the employee break room, observing the new orientation session. Tessa stood at the front with a small group of new hires, 4 total. Her speech was slower than the average trainer's, but her delivery was clear and confident. "Why you'll be challenged here," she said. "Customers don't always come in happy. Some are just frustrated. Some are angry. Your job is to not take it personal. But it's also not your job to be walked over. You seek and ask for help. Every time." One of the new hires, a tall man with a shaved head, raised his hand. "What if the manager's the problem?" Tessa didn't hesitate. "Then why you tell someone above them? And if they don't listen, you tell me. I'll take it up the chain." Westen watched the group absorb her words. There was no hesitation in their eyes. No doubt. She'd earned their trust before they'd even stepped onto the floor. After the session, he caught her by the vending machines. "You're a natural," he said. She let out a breath. I used to be terrified of speaking in front of people.
You still speak how you speak.
You just don't let it stop you. She looked at him. There's a difference between being quiet and being small. He nodded. And you're neither. She gave a slight smile and turned back toward the floor. That evening, he walked the aisles slowly, checking end caps, watching customer interactions. Employees were engaged, but not hurried. A few were still green. He could see it in their posture and the way they over-explained return policies, but they were trying. That mattered more. Near closing, he found Helen again by the office printer. Store 2's manager called me, she said. Apparently word got around about what happened here. He wants to know if you're planning to drop in on his crew next. I might, Westen said. But it won't be in costume. She shut the printer tray. You've got people talking. Some are nervous. Some are inspired. They should be both. She looked at him. You're going to keep doing this, aren't you? Not just here. We've got 7 other stores. Too many blind spots for one office. She nodded. Then you'll need more Tessas. I'm already drafting the job posting. By 10, the store was dark. The last register counted. The alarm set. Westen locked the doors himself, standing for a moment under the flickering exterior sign. He'd come here expecting to find a broken process. What he found was a person steady, overlooked, and carrying more than her share. Someone the system had failed, but who had never failed her role. The company would be different now. Not because of him, but because of who he finally chose to listen to. He got in his car without checking his messages. There were reports waiting. Emails.
Calls.
He'd get to them. But first, he would drive home with the quiet certainty that this time, the change would last.